breaks are going to be your main lever as coaches of developing core members. They're going to be like you're going to choose videos for like very targeted reasons. You're going to base them usually in a core practice and or a content. So you're watching a video for a very specific reason. That doesn't mean that necessarily you're like drilling in everyone's head in the room what they're going to take away. The environment and what people say is going to be what they take away, but you're going to set up the video PLC for a very specific reason. I know this is like very like meta thinking right now. We're gonna dive into it so you guys can experience it and then we can ask questions. Also, you're going to learn more actual, like, concrete skills as to how to make a video PLC on May 4th and then in the coming weeks as well. So tonight, just, like, experience it. Put yourself in the shoes of a core member who all of these tools are going to be very new for. It's going to be awkward watching your own video. You're going to experience it, hopefully, similarly to how they would. I'm going to just ground us right now. We're in Q4. We are reflecting on a video and watching a video together. Before we dive into the actual video PLC, I just want everyone to read through question 1. What is your experience making your practice public? Have you ever used videos? Has it been helpful? Why or why not? Take a second to think about that and then go ahead and share out when you're ready.
I don't think I've ever shared videos with someone and then directly gotten feedback about it. Like, I know that, like, for, like, Dominican and for, like, our cohort, like, we've, like, submitted videos and stuff, and, like, people have presumably watched them. I don't know if they're even. But I've never, like, gotten feedback from it, so I guess I'm, like, not familiar with, like, the potential, like, discomfort that would come with, like, getting constructive feedback.
As a core member, I felt like it was like a gotcha thing. Like when my MTLD would come in and take footage, which happened like once because I only observed once. I thought it was like kind of punitive, and I didn't really see it as a development tool and would externalize myself from the process. Like, okay, let me just get through it and then it'll be over. Versus like I'm excited about it and looking forward to it. As a coach who has been pushed to use them, like through, especially in summer training, I have like been completely changed. My whole worldview about video PLCs. If anything is true of core members over the past 2 summers that we've used these frameworks with and worked with in elementary, has been that they are like excited for them, that they are more willing and open to give each other true feedback, which is positive always, like positive too, but also critical. And like core members would, by the end of the summer, core members were like, my iPad is not charged, like, how am I going to get this video of my classroom? And, you know, core members are on a spectrum of feeling that excited about videos. But, like, that truly using it as a tool for development and feeling, like, trust and respect with their colleagues is something that I had never seen before and was really eye-opening for me and taught me a lot about what else good coaching can entail.
So given like Rushleen's example of like actually not like really ever having anything come from it, Jordan's example of like actually feeling like it was a gotcha or punitive, and then also like the high potential, like what do you think needs to be true about this summer, and what do we want to accomplish by showing core members videos of themselves and of each other? No right or wrong answer.
I mean, I feel like there needs to be like a set of ground rules for everyone involved, because I know that I don't really like being vulnerable because I have a close relationship with you. So like when Callie was like, look at your videos, this is what you did, and you need to see that you did this, I looked at it and I was like, oh, I actually did do this. So it was helpful, but that's because I have a good relationship with Callie, and you know, maybe I'm not close with people in my cohort, or I don't know them well enough, or you know, I think that they're gonna judge me, right? So setting those ground rules for that space would be important for me.
You need so many good things like ground rules, trust, relationships, all those things. Absolutely. What else?
I think a lot of people just have like negative feelings about being on camera and like watching themselves and listening to themselves. So I don't know, like providing like opportunities for them to like just have that like maybe private at first and be able to like get accustomed to it, or something that like helps them feel comfortable with it as opposed to the I don't want this, like, because that's how I felt too.
Is there like can core members just like opt out of like ever having their section? Not videotaped, but like shown like a homework?
So the expectation that I've set in the past is that throughout the summer, everyone will be part of the video PLC in that they will share their videos, because that's like a commitment we're all making to our development. Hi.
Hi, sirs.
We were dense, I didn't know.
Oh yeah, come on in. A commitment that we all were making. This is Kristen Munoz. She's in charge of operations for this summer.
Hi.
So she will be helping us out. And so we committed to all sharing a video at some point. And some people went more than once, some people really liked it, some people didn't. I've had a couple instances where core members are like, just feeling some anxiety, and like you can tell too, like as a human being, what is real, true, like primal fear, and what is, I don't want to do this. And so I think having the expectation that we are all doing this. There is no opt-out, but if this is something that's really, like, causing a human issue, like, let's decide, or let's figure out with them, like, what's going on there. And maybe at first it is, like, a gradual, like, we'll do this together, but this is a type of reflective practice that we want, and we believe is critical for our people to be the kind of teachers that, like, they can be. And this is something we're hoping to continue into the year, too. So if we set out the culture of our team to be reflective in this way, I truly believe that everyone will get on board and feel okay with it. Doesn't mean it won't be awkward, and that we don't need to like view people as individual humans with needs, and we don't know what their experiences are coming into summer training, and so I would want to balance those things, but there is no like opt out. I know that answer kind of dips in like the yes and no, but does that feel right? Or
Yeah, I envision it as like a shared commitment to like being vulnerable throughout the summer.
I think there's it sounds like there's a lot of feelings about this. Like, and I know this group has talked about this before. Like, we all come into like this with our own institute or summer training experience, which really colors the way that we think about all of this stuff. And so that's something I've been trying to learn more about in the video PLC for myself. Like, my only experience with videos was having some taken of me and then used as like examples to share with other coworkers from like my MTLD, and like it being like a really positive experience and not getting critical feedback. And so I think mistakes I made when I was trying to do video PLCs without being trained on it was like, everyone's gonna do this and it's like gonna be fine, but there's that didn't necessarily work out the best way. So trying to get to a neutral place and not necessarily like think about exactly how I would feel and impose that on others.
You also you hold the power of deciding what videos to show at certain times. So like if you have a core member like Jordan explained that is feeling like very uncomfortable, and maybe things aren't going so well in the classroom right now, perhaps maybe you hold them off until later weeks, or choose a video that they're really comfortable with sharing where they felt really successful, but there are some elements where we can learn and get critical feedback from as well. These also like, I think sometimes we think of videos like we're going to show this video and like pick the video apart and determine like all these terrible things that happen and what could go better. Like a lot of times like videos have a total mix of like here are things that we can lever your strengths, and then here are a couple areas of opportunities that we can grow in. And so I think adapting that mindset for core members, like this isn't a gotcha, this is like we want to learn from your video, not just like show your video to pick it apart. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're now going to all pretend that we're core members over the summer, and I'm going to do a video PLC. In being vulnerable, I've never led a video PLC the way that we want them to be led. I've also never planned one, so I'm excited that Alex is here and all of you are here to give me feedback and give me like some positive and critical feedback as to how I can get better and improve and make it more meaningful. Unfortunately, Sarah is not here today. We're using Sarah's video from summer training, so she was going to be an interactive part, but we're gonna like pretend that she is here and I'm gonna answer for her and or say what we would have done then. But before we start, I just wanna open the floor. Any questions? Okay, awesome. All right, guys. CTE group of Mary Crane, perhaps. We're going to watch a video of the lovely Sarah. The content we're focusing on today is opening circle, and the core practice is positioning students as competent sense makers. I also want to just ground us all in our learning cycle. We're in Q4. Sarah did this opening circle a couple of days ago. We're going to watch the video, reflect on it, and gain some insights and learning from it. Similar to what Taylor described in laying norms for the group, these are the norms that we committed to before we began video PLCs. Taylor, will you read number 1 for us?
Assume positive intent, especially on teacher's part.
Katie, number 2.
Stay away from global evaluations and reserve judgment.
And down, number 3.
Focus on evidence of teaching and learning and be as descriptive as possible.
Awesome. And Steph, can you read the remember for us?
Remember, we need to unabashedly believe that every single teacher walks into their classroom every day intending to do right by their students.
All right, so before we dive into the video, I want us to all refresh our memory. We're going to take a little bit of time to think about positioning students as competent sense makers. What does this look like? Why is it important, etc.? If you feel like, I know these are new for us, so if you want to pull out your actual core practice document, take a second to read that over. We're going to make a list on the board of these answers. So go ahead and take 30 seconds to do that, and then we'll do this together. Excuse me, there's no note. Video PLC.
I knew that was gonna be obvious.
Okay. Somebody go ahead and let's first, before we break down any moves, somebody go ahead and share why do you think this core practice is important? Or multiple people.
I think like our kids are so young. If they go into kindergarten knowing that what they think and what they know is important, then they're gonna be in a much better place. Alternatively, if we're not doing that, then they're gonna go into kindergarten thinking that they just have to listen to their teacher, and that might put them, like especially if they're more curious or more outspoken, that might get them in trouble. So yeah, I think it's really important to make sure they know their self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Steph. Anyone else want to add anything? Yeah, Rosalie.
I think kids learn best like when they can connect things to their own lives. So like bringing or giving students the opportunity to like make those connections will help them understand their content better.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Any other thoughts? All right, so now let's start a brainstorming list of what this looks like in early childhood and in a preschool classroom. What would we see in a classroom during opening circle if a teacher was positioning students as competent sense makers? Go ahead and shout them out. I'm going to write them down.
Asking open-ended questions.
Validating student responses.
What else?
Maybe if like a kid asks a question, saying, "What do you guys think?"
Yeah, turning it back, turning questions around. One more.
I would say like going with a student's like lead.
Yep. Challenge students' ideas, yeah. did that just to kind of get our minds around what are we looking for, what are we centering this video around. Again, please refer to your document. In our video PLCs, we're also gonna have guiding questions, sorry. In a real video PLC, we wouldn't do that. That would be on a separate board. So we're gonna have guiding questions that we want everyone in the room to be focusing on. This doesn't mean that we can only talk about this in our video PLC, but these are just some things when we watch the video that I want all of you to be thinking about. So go ahead and take 30 seconds to read through those questions. I also want to call out that I chose these guiding questions. There are many guiding questions, as you can see on your document. You can choose, there is like no right or wrong answer for which guiding questions to choose. It's the middle column on the EC core practices. But I just want to call out that these are the ones that I focused on. Okay. All right, we're about to watch Sarah's opening circle. But first, I just want to call out, it was really generous of Sarah to be our first one, especially that she isn't here now, that we're watching a video of her. This was the very first week of summer training. Super vulnerable of her to offer herself up and go. So thanks, Sarah, for that.
Yes.
I would also do this in a real video PLC, and thank the person for allowing us to watch their video. I would also give Sarah the opportunity to set the context for the video, so what day of summer training is this? Did anything happen in the morning? Were any students, any big things that she felt like she needed to share? When she watched the video, she told me that there was not much that she wanted to share. This was a typical morning at Mary Crane. Note-taking template.
Yes.
I'm gonna pass around the note-taking template. Sorry, I should have done this earlier for you guys. You can use this. Did you use this at every? Sorry,
Yes.
I'm asking a question. But
No, this is great. We're all learning together. Yeah, we used it at every video PLC, and it's really great because it creates an aspect of familiarity and builds the trust of the process, and also just it's as a facilitator helps you organize your thoughts. And this is a tool that you'll use to plan for your video PLCs as well, because you'll pull guiding questions, you'll focus yourself on the core practice, and that'll help set you up to execute.
in this document, the moves is what we brainstormed together, so you guys could have been jotting those notes down for us together. The first time we're gonna watch this clip, we're gonna watch it 2 times. The first time, you're just going to be observing. So in this gray box here, what the teacher is doing and what the students are doing. Make sure that it's grounded totally in actions and you're just focusing on objective, not subjective notes. Any questions before we watch?
Can I just say something real quick
Yeah,
about
of
this
course.
template? Something I did last year that was kind of cool was for the other side where it says glows and grows, I just put Post-it notes on there so that the glows could go to the teacher, so that also helped people feel really more affirmed in the space, especially if they were feeling really vulnerable.
That's a great
So
idea.
that
When
you
you pass
just-
this out, you
Yeah.
oh, I love
So
that.
everyone had a Post-it already, and they just write the teacher's name and different glows, and so then at the end they could all
take
collect
it with
those.
them.
Yeah.
What a great idea. Sorry, I didn't do that.
I never did that, but I love it. It's amazing.
All right, we're gonna check the sound here. Hopefully this is working.
5, 6, 7, 8. So now I'm
Sorry, I should have said this. They're graphing the student responses as to what they want to do if they win the investment piece.
gonna write down the number 8 down here. Now, bunny rabbits, there were 8 people who wanted 5 more minutes during centers and only 6 people who wanted 5 more minutes outside. So that means if we collect the marble charts today, we're gonna have 5 more minutes during centers. Is it funny? Round of applause is very excited for 5 more minutes during centers. Well, all I have done is play around, but just put a normal amount of time. Bunny rabbits, bottoms on the carpet, hands in your lap, eyes on me. I see Kylie with her bottom on the carpet, Jason has his bottom on the carpet, Rayshon your bottom needs to be on the carpet. Bunny rabbits, when I arrived at school today, guess what I found? the bunny rabbits when I got to school today. And it says, bunny rabbits. Yesterday I told you what the name of this was. Does anyone think back to yesterday? With the name again, who can tell me what this is called? Stacey I'm going to listen to what Stacey has to say. That's right, Stacey. Everyone, let's give Stacey a marshmallow clap because he was such a good scholar. He remembered what the word was yesterday. This is a stamp. Now I'm going to open up the envelope. And we have a brand new letter inside. I'm going to open up the letter and tape it up here for all of you to see. Alright, bunny rabbits. Bottoms on the carpet. I see Layla with her bottom on the carpet. Stacey has his bottom on the carpet. Rajon, your bottom needs to be on the carpet. Bunny rabbits, let's put on our reading glasses and all read the letter together. I'm looking at this paper, and all of you should be looking at this paper as well. Now, I'm going to say the words first, and you repeat after me. Bubble in your mouth. Micaiah. Bubble in your mouth. Reading, scholars. Reading, scholars. Today is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. Today, Miss Sarah will tell you about. Today, Miss Sarah will tell you about a time she was resourceful. A time she was resourceful. Then two students will act out a skit. About being resourceful. Love, anonymous. Anonymous means that. Now, bunny rabbits, there were a couple of words in our business letter. If you can hear my voice cut once, if you can hear my voice cut twice, if you can hear my voice cut 3 times, Stacey's eyes are on me, Micaiah's eyes are on me, Aaliyah's eyes are on me, Rajon, your eyes are on me. Now, there are a couple of words in this letter that I want to let you know. One is resourceful. Now, resourceful is when you come up with an idea for using what is around you to solve a problem. So that means we're going to be using what is around us to solve a problem. Micaiah? Miss Lydia, you sit next to Micaiah so that she can pay attention and grow her brain and let other friends work behind this one. Thank you very much. So, I am going to tell you about a story about a time that I was resourceful. Once upon a time, Miss Sarah was in 4th grade. Now, Miss Sarah went to school very similar to this school, and one day she decided she wanted to make an art project. Now, I wanted to make an art project, but I didn't have any supplies. I didn't have paper. I didn't have pens. I didn't have glue. You know what I had? Popcorn. I had popcorn for lunch. What is this? Can everyone make popcorn hands? Leah's making popcorn hands. Stacey is making popcorn hands. Nyla is making popcorn hands. Hands in your lap. Micaiah is making popcorn hands. Hands in your lap. So, what I decided to do, I decided to be resourceful. I took the popcorn kernels and I washed them in the sink and I mixed them for my art project. And you know what? That is a story of being resourceful. So now I'm going to have 2 students, just like the letter says, come up here and demonstrate another skit about being resourceful. Can someone raise, everyone who wants to come up here and demonstrate, raise a quiet hand. Micaiah, come up here and Ethan. Now, Micaiah and Ethan are going to act out a skit about resourceful. Now, while we're acting it out, bunny rabbits, we're going to have our bottoms on the carpet, hands in our lap, and eyes on the 2 performers on stage. Once upon a time, in a preschool called the Bunny Rabbit School, there lived 2 people. The first was Micaiah, and the second was Peyton. Our 2 friends loved playing together. They rode trikes together. They built houses together. They played in the sandbox together. And they hugged each other almost every day.
Okay, we're going to stop the video there. Go ahead and take one 1 to 2 minutes just to kind of finish your final thoughts, get any wonderings or questions that you have down. Like 20 more seconds. Does anyone want to share out any wonderings or questions they have at this time? Related to our core practice. It's okay if not, we can just focus on the guiding questions and core practices. I just wanted to leave space in case anyone had any. Yeah.
Was this lesson planned with this core practice in mind?
Nope. It's a great question. I just chose it. Any other questions? Okay. This time when we watch it, anyone can pause the video at any point in time to share a learning that they had from the video, or a question, or a wondering, or ask the group a question, or share something. Questions on that. So you can simply just say pause and share your statement. Okay, are we ready? Okay, here we go.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I'm going to write down the number 8 down here. Now, buddy rabbits, there were 8 people who wanted 5 more minutes during centers and only 6 people who wanted 5 more minutes outside. So that means if we fill up the marble jar today, we're going to have 5 more minutes during centers.
Sorry, Russian.
So one thing I'm wondering is if the students came up with those choices for the incentive system themselves, or if they were like predetermined.
Great question.
I'm also thinking too, like, number one, her voice is super warm. The kids are really responding to her and her presence. And but I'm wondering if she could have asked that as a question instead of telling them less or more, and then maybe come in with the answer if they didn't know it.
Any other thoughts at this point? Thanks for sharing.
Round of applause if you're excited for well, all I didn't have to play around, but just for the normal amount of time. Bunny rabbits, bottoms on the carpet, hands in your lap, eyes on me. I see Kylie with her bottom on the carpet, Stacy has his bottom on the carpet, Rajan the bottom needs to be on the carpet. Bunny rabbits, what?
I think that the narration is actually positioning students potentially as competent sim swingers too. It's like acknowledging what they're doing and that they can do it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I arrived at school today. Guess what I found? It's another large letter! Now this was in our mailbox for the bunny rabbits when I got to school today. And it says, bunny rabbits. Yesterday I told you what the name of this was. Does anyone think back to yesterday? With the name? Who can tell me what this is called? Stacey's raising the plate. I'm going to listen to what Stacey has to say. That's right, Stacey. Because he was such a good scholar, he remembered what the word was yesterday.
Pause. So I see her positioning students as competent in the action, like the teacher action, the student response. She called on a student to like share and oriented them towards like being part of the conversation and highlighted that student's answer for the whole class and then celebrated it too. So brought them into the lesson and celebrated that and positioned them as holders of information as well.
Similar to Kate's last comment, I find it powerful she's using his name and like saying like, did you hear what Stacy, not did you hear, but like Stacy just said X, gives him the power in the class and not just like, yeah, it's called a stamp. It gives him more power. I agree.
I think also she she does a good job when other kids are calling out the answer because she never disaffirms anyone else. She's never like, everyone be quiet and listen. She just models how to do it. So that I guess could potentially be a way of positioning them as competent. Like they can learn from modeling rather than me like explicitly correcting that behavior.
And acknowledges the all and not just the one additional one.
Right.
Now I'm gonna open up the envelope and we have a brand new letter inside. I'm gonna open up the letter and tape it up here for all of you to see. Alright, bunny rabbits. Bottoms on the carpet. I see Layla with her bottom on the carpet. Stacy has his bottom on the carpet. Rajon, your bottom needs to be on the carpet. Bunny rabbits, let's put on our reading glasses and all read the letter together. I'm looking at this picture.
So a wondering I have is I've heard Stacy's name several times now, and I don't think I've heard another kid's name repeated. I'm wondering if Stacy is a student who needs to have their name repeated, or if she even realizes that she's doing that.
Were you gonna add that?
Oh, yeah. I was just.
I totally agree to that. I'm also wondering, I've heard Rajon saying be redirected a couple times now. So I'm wondering if she's noticing that she's doing that and how she could also make him feel affirmed in the classroom, not just redirected.
And all of you should be looking at this paper as well. Now I'm going to say the words first and you repeat after me. Bubble in your mouth, Micaiah. Bubble in your mouth. Greetings, scholars. Greetings, scholars. Today is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. Today, Miss Sarah will tell you about. Today, Miss Sarah will tell you about a time she was resourceful. A time she was resourceful.
I'm gonna pause right here. I don't think everyone can see, but in like the bottom right corner is Rajon, and I know this because I've been in this classroom. And he is like, his body language for the last 30 seconds has been like covering his face, like covering over. And so I'm wondering, like, is Sarah noticing this, and how or why isn't she responding, or how could she respond to make sure that he's feeling respected in the classroom?
And Callie, in this moment, if Sarah were present, what would you do to like activate that for her?
I would. That's a great question. I think I would ask Sarah, like, what do you notice about the students in front of you? What do you particularly notice about the students who you've either redirected or called upon positively? Anyone else? Would anyone else ask Sarah a different question?
I'm wondering, I like all these core practices blend together in some ways, right? So I'm wondering about the territory of now like being between positioning students as sense makers and creating and maintaining a positive learning environment. That's more of my like wondering. So I was noticing that, but I'm like, do we call that out here, or is that the focus?
Yeah, that's something that we talked about, stepping outside of video PLC for a second. That's something we talked about with Alex too. Like you as the leader of the video PLC, like if somebody brings that up, or do you want to bring it up? And I think it just is like if you think the conversation is going there, people are going to get something out of it, you can go to that point in the conversation and bring up the other core practice. But if you think it's taking away from something else you're trying to pinpoint, then maybe save that for a later conversation. Alex, would you add?
Yeah, or I think like also getting into a discussion of how the core practices are really interrelated, and that's, I think, intentional. I think in order to position students as competent, you need to have a positive learning environment where that's possible, or you need to have them orient to a content, or else what are they making sense of? So there's so much interlapping.
I like interlapping.
It's an interlacing
word.
Word shipping.
So I think somebody might make a comment like, Steph, I think, brought up like the positive narration, or maybe that's Katie actually. Kate brought up this positive narration. Yeah, like right, noticing how does the culture move create a place where students can be positioned business makers.
Alex, you clearly are so good at this.
I know. Should we keep going, Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then, two students will act out a skit about being resourceful. Love, anonymous. Anonymous means that. Now, Bunny Rabbit, there were a couple of words in our business letter. You can hear my voice type once. You can hear my voice type twice. You can hear my voice type 3 times. Stacy's eyes are on me. Micaiah's eyes are on me. Malia's eyes are on me. Alexandra, I know it's on me. Now, there are a couple of words in this letter that I want to let you know. One is resourceful. Now, resourceful is when you come up with an idea of using what is around you to solve a problem. So that means we're going to be using what is around us to solve a problem. Micaiah? Miss Lydia, you can sit next to Micaiah. This is that.
I'm gonna pause it here. One thing that I'm wondering, I'm thinking about is teacher-student ratio of talking, and how this could look differently, or like what the balance is here. And I know morning meeting and opening circle is like a content where you're trying to push in skills, but how else could she have brought in prior knowledge, especially after reading a huge message like that in call and response? Something I'm thinking about.
She can pay attention and grow her brain and let other friends grow her brain as well. Thank you very much. So, I am going to tell you about a story about a time when I was resourceful. Once upon a time, Miss Sarah was in 4th grade. Now, Miss Sarah went to school very similar to this school, and one day she decided she wanted to make an art project. Now, I wanted to make an art project, but I didn't have any supplies. I didn't have paper. I didn't have pens. I didn't have glue. You know what I had? Popcorn. I had popcorn for lunch. What is this? Can everyone make popcorn hands? Leah's making popcorn hands. Stacy is making popcorn hands. Nyla is making popcorn hands.
Pause.
And your left hand.
Looks like there's a little gal crawling around a little bit, but she still allows her to contribute, and sort of this is bringing in, I think, some culture principles, but like with the least restrictive environment, right? I think we talked about that in the culture. But she,
Strive for engagement.
yeah, striving for engagement. So that's something else I can bring in. But yeah, she still allows that child to participate without negatively disaffirming her.
So, what I decided to do, I decided to be resourceful. I took popcorn kernels, and I washed them in and I used them on my art project. And you know what? That is a story of being resourceful. So now I'm going to have 2 students, just like the letter says, come up here and demonstrate another skit about being resourceful. Can someone raise, everyone who wants to come up here and demonstrate, raise a quiet hand. Micaiah, come up here.
Pause. So I noticed that a lot of hands go up when she says, like, students are going to come up and act out a skit. I think that I know that shows a lot of like students feeling confident in the classroom, in that they want to volunteer and go up to the front, and the fact that she is like having students stand at the front and represent ideas along with her, versus her just continuing to tell the story, I think positions them as sense makers and brings them into the way that she's presenting the content.
Now, Micaiah and Paisley are going to act out a skit about being resourceful. Now, while they're acting it out, Bunny Rabbit's we're going to have our bottoms on the carpet, hands in our lap, and eyes on the 2 performers on stage. Ready for the skit? Once upon a time, in a preschool called the Bunny Rabbit School, there lived 2 people. The first was Micaiah, and the second was Peyton. Our 2 friends loved playing together. together, they rode trikes together, they built houses together, they played in the sandbox together, and they hugged each other.
Alright. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
That's the end of it, so finish
I have
this
one.
off.
Great. Toward one of our guiding questions of in what ways does the teacher show students' ideas, contributions are valued and respected? My wondering in this is the script that she came up with, is it like true? Did she elicit their ideas the night like the day before, or was it just made up? I don't know.
Any other final wonderings or thoughts we want to share? Okay. Well, thank you, Sarah, for allowing us to watch your video. Thank you for being vulnerable even though you're not here. This is how we'll close out video PLCs. We would turn to Sarah and we would ask Sarah, what does this make you think about your teaching? What is one thing you're going to keep doing and what's your next step? We would give Sarah some time to think about that. I also want all of you to think about that. So take 1 minute to think about after watching this video, what is one thing that you're taking away and going to either practice doing or bring to your own practice. You can also flip over the paper, it's on the outside in case you all did that. About 10 more seconds, then we'll just pop one out. She's like, what is this? And she like caught herself doing popcorn hands. All right, yeah. All right, somebody start us off. What are you taking away from Sarah's video?
To make sure that all students' voices are affirmed, especially students that are either being redirected or I haven't called on. So like this is my class, so I know basically everyone that was on the carpet. So there's definitely a few names that I didn't hear, and I was questioning like, why is she not saying their names, or why isn't she giving them an opportunity for them to speak and let their voice be heard?
Anyone else share?
I'm thinking about, for myself, this is something for real life that I struggle with, especially when I have a lot of information to give, like Sarah did in her morning message, and she was trying to explain that vocabulary word and give them access to it. So there was so much she had to give them, and I often struggle with, like, how do I share this information in a way that balances my talking and thinking with the people that I'm conversing with? And so watching her go through that process and having to make those like tough decisions makes me want to focus more on that in my lesson planning and also like work.
I was thinking similar along those lines, how glad I am that we chose this core practice for this video, because I think if we had watched it through the lens of like teaching towards an instructional goal or even orienting students towards content,
Yeah.
I would not have noticed all or like how teacher heavy it was. And that like something I wrote down was like, damn, it's easy to forget to ask questions. And so something I'm taking away from my own practice is like actually going through my lesson plans and writing down where I can ask questions, instead of just like telling kids things, to make sure that there's a balance.
Stuff to go off of that, I'm thinking about like the tension that sometimes exists within the core practices, and how do we balance as coaches and people working with teachers and teachers yourselves, balancing those two things, like you said, is really hard. Just thinking about it. Anyone else want to share? I think we would have everyone share.
Yes,
Correct.
everyone would share. And similar, Steph did, I love that idea about giving the glows to people to actually like walk away with. Something that I utilized Post-its for was for everyone's reflection on their own practice, they would write it down on the Post-it note and, like, as they left the room, like, stick it on the wall. So then as a coach, I would take that priority that they were committing to and write that on my, like, I had, like, an observation template for, like, people and just to keep the days in order. And so that I could hold them accountable to that and look for it. So it felt like it was, to me, it was building trust. Like, you told me what you wanted to commit to, and I'm going to, like, promise that we're going to commit to that.
I think you did one too. Maybe on the back they could write a question or something that they needed more clarification on.
Yeah.
Because then we would collaborate on that too.
True.
So like that was helpful too to know coming out of the PLC what are core members thinking about, so that it was something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be smart.
I had a reflection for myself.
Yeah.
I was thinking about positioning core members as confident, and then in a debrief that I was having with the core member earlier today, where the way I'd planned it, I'd planned questions, I'd done the planning of positioning them as confident, but in the moment was actually surprised by how confident they were, and like how strong their reflection was and where they were, and I'm like, that's not where you were 3.5 weeks ago. And it was just like a reminder to me to continue to like, to actually just like always plan on more on setting them up to be confident, and less on like I need to give this much information, or to plan more in that way, because there were a couple points in the debrief where I was like, oh, I hadn't thought through that because I didn't think that we were going to be getting that far, and that was an overall, it was like a meta positioning them as confident.
I was thinking about like the power in celebrating individual student responses. I do a lot of like the marshmallow claps and like firework claps for like whole group stuff, but not so much for like an individual student response. And I just thinking about like how confident and valued that would make an individual student feel.
Absolutely. Dale, anything you want to share? Tell me to look for that one. Not to put you on the spot, but you're the only other person, I'm sure.
Yeah, kind of going along with that, when one person responds, I forget who had mentioned it, but like not like just affirming the other students and like kind of letting them all talk, but kind of modeling how to like respond and like how to listen.
Yeah. Awesome. Glad we're all walking away with something. All right. We're stepping outside of the video PLC. We only have a couple minutes left. But what does this make you all think about your own facilitation of video PLCs? What's it going to take? What are you thinking about? What did you notice me doing? What would you do differently?
I had a question about like the second kind of run through of it. What kind of what was like the framework for the responses that people are supposed to give? Like as far as like I'm wondering this or like I'm thinking this, like can it just be anything, or like should it be gone about in a certain way?
Yeah, no, I think from what I understand, and Jordan, you've done more of these, wonderings and like things that you're thinking about or things that you're noticing is like what we're trying to pull on, mostly related to the core practice and the guiding questions. So into those on like the front side what we have written down. So we're thinking mostly about positioning students as competent sense makers and then these questions.
So just like kind of any thoughts and
Yes.
comments you can share. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The person whose video it is will share context. Like, it is unique that we would never, like, if we were actually, like, in summer training, if a core member was absent that day, you wouldn't show their video. But we planned this, so Kaylee had no option. And Sarah was cool with it. So, anyway, they would give context, like, here's what's going on, here's what I was maybe thinking, doing, like, just things that are helpful as viewers. But after the first run-through, you've taken notes over, like, very low inference notes, like things you're not having to guess on. Like, I think students are excited. Like, students' hands are up, they're excited. But if you notice something, like potentially maybe there's a high flyer or somebody who, you know, or something about the teacher and a choice they made, and you want to ask that question too, as it maybe relates to the core practice, or as you just like need to understand better before going into the second. Because the second run through, we're actually analyzing and giving an opinion. So if something's a barrier for you to give, like that level of analysis, that this is time for you to ask.
Okay. And then would they be responding as we're giving the comments the second time? Like the person who's on video If we're like making the comments or like asking questions, like does that person respond to those?
If you have a direct question,
Okay.
like at the
Or
end
they'll,
or like a
I'm wondering
wondering,
this, like would
actually no.
Okay.
Because it's not just about this person. The video
Mhm.
PLC is about everybody at the table.
okay.
So they might say like, I'm wondering this about like what I was doing too. And I think that's kind of like a little dance that you do.
Okay.
But no, because we don't want to turn this into a like, I'm wondering why
you
you
do
did
that?
this.
Yeah.
Here's why. Like sometimes, I mean, who knows? I'm just starting to teach. I don't know why I did that. But like, that's why at the end it's so important too that the person who watched the video is getting great pieces of feedback and hopefully like helpful points in time when they can actually go back and like replan or rethink how they did that. But then we're also walking away with a commitment that's not grounded in like, I think Sarah should do this. It's like, after watching that, I've learned this about my own practice, or I'm thinking about this about my own practice. So it's kind of like that balance. But if you do have a specific, when questions come up, like, it's an organic space, ask it. But no, those noticings and wonderings in the second run through aren't meant to be always responded to. Would you agree?
Something that is helpful,
Yeah.
I think, to consider.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye. We're gonna end now.